There's a quiet power in wisdom. It's not about shouting from the rooftops or making grand declarations. Instead, it's about clarity, discernment, and choosing to live authentically, even when the choices are difficult. Today, I want to talk about the silent strength of a wise woman, how she chooses her circle, guards her energy, and walks away from those who no longer serve her journey. The first type of person a wise woman cuts off is anyone who diminishes her sense of worth. These are the people who knowingly or unknowingly erode her confidence and make her question her intrinsic value. It could be through constant criticism, subtle jabs, dismissive attitudes, or even outright belittlement. These people may mask their negativity as honesty or constructive feedback, but their words and actions are designed to chip away at her sense of self, not build her up. A wise woman understands that her worth is not determined by someone else's perception of her. She knows that no one, not a friend, a partner, a coworker, or even a family member, has the authority to define her value. Her worth is inherent, unshakable, and independent of external validation. When someone diminishes her, it's not always obvious at first. It often starts small and offhand comment about her abilities, a subtle dismissal of her ideas, or a lack of acknowledgement for her contributions. But over time, these moments accumulate, and if left unchecked, they can lead to self-doubt and hesitation. A wise woman pays attention to these patterns. She doesn't ignore the sinking feeling that arises when she's around someone who makes her feel less than she is. But here's what's remarkable: a wise woman doesn't retaliate with anger or confrontation. She doesn't need to defend her worth because she knows it is not up for debate. Instead, she steps back with quiet confidence. She disengages from relationships where her light is dimmed, where her voice is stifled, or where her efforts are overlooked. And she doesn't stop there. A wise woman also reflects on why she allowed such relationships to persist. She asks herself, what part of me tolerated this treatment? What can I do to ensure it doesn't happen again? This self-awareness becomes her armor. She begins to set stronger boundaries, surround herself with people who uplift her, and nurture environments where her worth is recognized and celebrated. Cutting off those who diminish her worth isn't about bitterness or ego, it's about preservation. It's about honoring the journey she's on and the person she's becoming. She understands that in order to grow, she must release what weighs her down. And so she moves forward not with fanfare, but with a quiet, unshakable resolve. Because a wise woman knows that the right people will never make her question her worth. They will remind her of it every step of the way. The second type of person a wise woman silently releases is the one who exploits her kindness. These individuals come in many forms: friends, family members, colleagues, or even strangers, but they all have one thing in common: they see her generosity not as a gift to honor, but as an opportunity to take advantage. Exploitation of kindness often starts subtly. It's the friend who always needs a favor but never seems to be available when she needs help. It's the coworker who piles extra tasks on her desk, assuming she won't say no. It's the family member who consistently asks for emotional, financial, or physical support without ever reciprocating or even expressing gratitude. These people see her kindness as a resource to drain, not a treasure to respect. A wise woman understands that kindness is one of her greatest strengths. It reflects her empathy, her compassion, and her willingness to see the best in others. But she also knows that kindness, when unchecked by boundaries, can become a vulnerability. She recognizes that there are those who will take and take, never stopping to consider the toll it takes on her. What's remarkable about a wise woman is her ability to discern the difference between being helpful and being exploited. She doesn't let guilt or obligation cloud her judgment. She knows that true kindness is rooted in mutual respect, not in being a doormat. And when she begins to feel drained, unappreciated, or used, she doesn't wait for things to escalate, she acts. But her actions aren't loud or confrontational. A wise woman doesn't need to announce that she's stepping away or demand acknowledgement from those who have taken her for granted. Instead, she quietly and gracefully pulls back. She starts saying no where she once said yes. She withdraws her time and energy from those who only take without giving. She lets go of the emotional labor she once shouldered for people who didn't value it. In doing so, she creates space for relationships that are balanced and fulfilling. She welcomes people into her life who see her kindness as a gift to cherish, not a resource to exploit. These are the people who give as much as they take, who appreciate her efforts, and who contribute to her growth and joy. This process is not without its challenges. Saying no, especially to people she cares about, can feel uncomfortable. But a wise woman knows that protecting her energy isn't selfish, it's essential. She understands that her kindness is a finite resource, and if she doesn't guard it, she won't have enough left for herself or the people who truly deserve it. Ultimately, letting go of those who exploit her kindness is an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that her generosity is valuable, and it won't be wasted on those who can't or won't appreciate it. And so she moves forward not bitter, but better, not angry, but empowered, because a wise woman knows that her kindness is a light, and it deserves to shine where it is truly valued. The third type of person a wise woman silently releases is the one who feeds drama over peace. These are the people who seem to thrive on chaos, who stir the pot, gossip endlessly, and create conflict where none needs to exist. They live for the highs and lows of unnecessary emotional turmoil, often pulling others into their storms, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Drama comes in many forms. It can be the friend who always has a crisis but never takes steps to resolve it, expecting others to carry the emotional weight for her. It can be the coworker who spreads rumors in the office, pitting people against one another. It can even be a family member who constantly drags up old grievances, refusing to let go of the past and move forward. Whatever the source, drama is a thief. It robs you of energy, clarity, and most importantly, peace of mind. A wise woman recognizes this theft for what it is. She knows that a life filled with unnecessary drama leaves little room for growth, creativity, or joy. She values her emotional well-being too much to allow it to be drained by those who constantly invite her into chaos. At first, it might feel tempting to get involved. Drama often masquerades as urgency. It presents itself as something that requires immediate attention and intervention. But a wise woman has learned to pause. She asks herself, is this my battle to fight? Is this a real problem, or is it just noise more often than not? She realizes that the drama has nothing to do with her. And so she chooses not to engage. This doesn't mean she's cold or uncaring. On the contrary, a wise woman is deeply empathetic. But she also understands that her empathy doesn't mean she has to absorb someone else's chaos. She learns to hold space for others without being pulled into their storms. She can listen without taking on their burden, support without losing herself in their struggles, and love without sacrificing her own peace. When she identifies a pattern, when she notices that someone in her life consistently brings more drama than peace, she takes action. But she doesn't do so with fanfare. A wise woman doesn't announce her departure or justify her decision to step back. She simply begins to create distance. She limits her interactions with the person, avoids situations that invite unnecessary conflict, and focuses her energy on relationships and activities that bring her joy and tranquility. Creating this distance isn't always easy. Some people will try to pull her back into their chaos using guilt, manipulation, or emotional appeals. But a wise woman stands firm. She knows that protecting her peace isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. She refuses to let her life be consumed by someone else's need for attention or control. In cutting off those who feed drama, she makes room for something beautiful: peace. Peace doesn't mean a life without challenges. It means having the clarity and emotional space to face those challenges without unnecessary distractions. It means building relationships that are rooted in trust, respect, and mutual support. A wise woman understands that peace is priceless. It is the foundation upon which she builds her dreams, nurtures her relationships, and grows into her fullest potential. And she will not let anyone take that from her. So she steps away from the drama quietly, without resentment, and with a heart full of gratitude for the calm she is creating in her life. Because a wise woman knows that the absence of drama is not just freedom, it is power. It is the power to live intentionally, to love deeply, and to thrive unapologetically. The fourth type of person a wise woman silently cuts off is someone who refuses to grow. These are individuals who cling tightly to comfort zones, resist change, and reject the opportunities for self-improvement that life continuously offers. Growth for them feels like a burden rather than a privilege, and they remain stagnant, content to live in the same patterns, think the same thoughts, and avoid any challenge that could lead to transformation. A wise woman knows that growth is not just important, it is essential. It is the heartbeat of a fulfilled life, the thread that connects her past, present, and future into a story of becoming. She understands that to live is to grow, and to grow is to embrace the discomfort, uncertainty, and hard work that change requires. When someone refuses to grow, it creates a ripple effect. Their lack of progress often manifests as negativity, fear, or even resentment toward those who are evolving. They might downplay her ambitions, question her dreams, or subtly discourage her efforts to rise higher. Why are you trying so hard, they might ask. You've changed, they might accuse. What they fail to realize is that change is the very essence of life, and refusing it is a refusal to fully live. A wise woman listens carefully to the messages people send through their actions and words. When she senses that someone in her circle is choosing stagnation over growth, she begins to reflect on the impact it has on her own journey. Is their refusal to grow holding her back? Are they creating an environment where she feels guilty or unsupported for pursuing her potential? Are they pulling her down when she's trying to rise? She doesn't cut these individuals off out of judgment or superiority. On the contrary, she has compassion for them. She understands that growth can be scary and that everyone moves at their own pace. But she also knows that her path is her own to walk, and she cannot let someone else's refusal to evolve become an obstacle to her own evolution. Quietly, she begins to distance herself from these individuals. She stops seeking their validation or approval, knowing that it is futile to expect someone who refuses to grow to celebrate her growth. She spends less time in their company, choosing instead to surround herself with people who are committed to learning, expanding, and thriving. And here's the thing about a wise woman: she doesn't just cut people off, she also models what growth looks like. Through her actions, she shows that growth is not just possible, it's beautiful. She demonstrates that it's okay to be a beginner, to fail, to struggle, and to try again. She becomes a living example of what it means to embrace the process of becoming. But she also accepts that not everyone will choose to follow her example. Some will remain stuck, and that is their choice. A wise woman respects their journey while staying true to her own. She understands that growth requires an environment of encouragement, inspiration, and accountability, and she prioritizes cultivating such an environment in her life. Letting go of people who refuse to grow is not easy. Sometimes they are people she loves deeply. But a wise woman knows that love doesn't mean sacrificing her own potential. Love can coexist with boundaries. It can coexist with distance. It can coexist with the acknowledgement that two people are simply moving in different directions. Ultimately, a wise woman chooses to honor the person she is becoming over the comfort of staying where she's always been. She knows that growth is a journey without a final destination, that she will always be evolving, learning, and transforming. And she is committed to walking alongside people who share that vision, who inspire her to reach higher, and who celebrate her wins as if they were their own. In releasing those who refuse to grow, she reclaims her energy and focus. She plants herself in a community of dreamers, doers, and change makers who challenge her to be her best self. And as she moves forward, she carries no resentment, only gratitude for the lessons learned and the clarity gained. Because a wise woman knows that growth is life, and she refuses to let anyone dim her light simply because they are afraid to shine their own. The fifth type of person a wise woman silently releases is someone who violates her boundaries. Boundaries are not just rules or limits, they are the unspoken contracts that protect her emotional, mental, and physical well-being. They define the space where she can truly be herself, unburdened and unencumbered by the expectations, needs, and demands of others. A boundary is a declaration that she deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. And when someone crosses that line, they violate the sanctity of her personhood. A wise woman understands the importance of boundaries. She knows that setting them isn't a selfish act. It's an act of self-care. Boundaries create the emotional space where she can thrive, grow, and give her best to the world. Without them, she risks becoming depleted, resentful, and lost in the needs of others. Boundaries protect her from becoming a shadow of herself, constantly adjusting to the wants and demands of others at the expense of her own identity. The people who violate her boundaries may do so in different ways. Some do it intentionally, pushing past limits with the expectation that they can manipulate or control her. They might guilt trip her into doing things she's uncomfortable with, or they may show a blatant disregard for her time, energy, or emotions. Others might do so unknowingly, having been allowed to cross those boundaries before without consequence. They might call at all hours of the night, ask for more than she can give, or overstay their welcome, not realizing the toll it takes on her. But regardless of intent, the violation of her boundaries has the same effect. It undermines her sense of self-respect and peace. A wise woman doesn't wait for the violation to continue. She understands that allowing others to violate her boundaries is not an act of love or sacrifice, it is an invitation for disrespect. And while she may wish to accommodate others out of kindness, she also knows that without boundaries, she cannot give from a place of fullness. She will only give from a place of depletion. And at first, a wise woman might tolerate minor violations. She may think it's just one more time, it won't hurt, or I don't want to cause conflict. But over time, she begins to realize that tolerating these violations erodes her sense of self-worth and leaves her feeling disrespected, resentful, or overwhelmed. A wise woman understands that boundaries are not negotiable and they must be honored if she is to remain grounded and at peace. When someone repeatedly violates her boundaries, she makes the decision to address the issue. But she doesn't approach it from a place of anger or confrontation. A wise woman knows that emotional reactions cloud judgment and often lead to further conflict. Instead, she calmly and assertively communicates her limits, making it clear what she is willing and unwilling to tolerate. She explains her needs and expectations in a way that is firm but respectful, allowing space for the other person to hear and understand her. If the boundary violator continues to disrespect her, a wise woman takes action not with anger, but with quiet resolve. She pulls back her time and energy, gently distancing herself from the relationship or interaction. She stops engaging in situations where her boundaries are disregarded, no longer allowing herself to be manipulated, drained, or disrespected. Some may question her actions. They may accuse her of being rigid, distant, or uncaring. But a wise woman understands that boundaries are not about rejecting others, they are about protecting her ability to show up as her authentic self. She recognizes that when people continuously violate her boundaries, they are sending a message that they don't value her or respect her needs. And so she chooses to honor her own worth over the desire to please others or avoid conflict. Letting go of people who violate her boundaries is not an easy decision. It can be painful, especially if those people are close to her or have been a part of her life for a long time. But a wise woman knows that she cannot continue to give from an empty well. she cannot continue to sacrifice her peace and her well-being for the comfort of others. And so she makes the difficult yet necessary decision to protect herself. By releasing those who violate her boundaries, a wise woman reclaims her power. She creates space for relationships that are built on mutual respect and understanding. She invites people into her life who honor her limits, who appreciate her for who she is, and who understand that her boundaries are not walls meant to keep others out, but pillars that support her and allow her to be her best self. In doing so, she models what healthy relationships look like, not ones built on compromise at the cost of self-respect, but ones built on respect, trust, and mutual care. She shows others the power of holding firm to one's boundaries, teaching them that boundaries are not walls, but invitations to deeper connection. A wise woman doesn't regret releasing those who violate her boundaries. Instead, she thanks them for the lessons they taught her. She understands that sometimes letting go is the only way to make room for what truly nourishes her. And as she moves forward, she does so with a heart that is open, a spirit that is free, and a mind that is clear, because she knows that her boundaries are sacred and they are worth protecting. Because a wise woman knows that in order to grow, to give, and to love fully, she must first honor herself and her boundaries. She chooses peace, respect, and self-worth over the comfort of others, knowing that only by doing so can she truly show up as her most authentic, powerful self. In conclusion, a wise woman knows that her peace, growth, and self-respect are non-negotiable. She understands the importance of protecting her energy by silently cutting off those who diminish her worth, exploit her kindness, feed drama over peace, refuse to grow, and violate her boundaries. Through these choices, she reclaims her power and maintains her authenticity. She knows that distancing herself from negativity is not about rejection, but about creating space for love, respect, and meaningful connections. By honoring herself, she demonstrates that true strength lies in choosing what nurtures her spirit and aligns with her purpose.